Good afternoon, Econ 1B students. Today I wanted to go through with you the in-class activity that I've posted for week 10, the participation activity, and this is something that I want to do periodically. It'll contribute to your participation grade, the in-class activities we would have done together. I'd like you to try to do independently, and so I'll post a video of how to do it with the answer key to get as close as possible to showing you what you would have done if we were all together. And so this one is just asking you to calculate, you've got variable cost and fixed costs. And so I'm asking you to calculate total cost, average variable cost, average total cost, and marginal cost. And so I'll go through with the whiteboard first and calculate those for you. And then we'll go through and graph those three curves that are really important to us: the average variable cost curve, the average total cost curve, and the marginal cost curve. Sound good? So let's get started. So we start out with let me see if I can get this here. We have a quantity of 1, quantity of 2, quantity of 3, quantity of 4, and quantity of 5. And then we've got our fixed costs, which are $10. And remember, fixed costs are the costs that don't change as you scale up or down production. So the fixed costs are, if it's $10 for a quantity of 1, it's going to be $10 for a quantity of 0, $10 for a quantity of 5. Think of it as being like the rent you have to pay on your shop or something like that. It's what you have to pay whether you shut down or not, no matter how many units you produce. So that's going to be $10 all the way down. Our variable costs, on the other hand, those are the ones that scale up and scale down as we increase and decrease production. So it's going to increase as we produce more units and decrease as we produce fewer units. And that's going to be where we get a little bit more variation in our costs. And so we can think about that as being things like labor and materials. So for our example, the variable costs of 1 unit is $8. For 2, it's $10. 3, it's 14. And I'm just reading these directly off the sheet I posted. For 4, it's 20. And for 5, it's 30. And then we want to calculate our total cost. And I'm going to do total cost first, and I'm going to squish everything over because I'm going to run out of room. So our total cost would be just fixed plus variable costs. That's what total cost is. It's just our fixed costs plus our variable costs. So 10 plus 18, or 10 plus 8 gives us total cost of 18. 10 plus 10 gives us total cost of 20. Move down here. 3 plus 14 gives us a total cost of 24. 10 plus 20 gives us a total cost of 30. And then 10 plus 30 gives us a total cost of 40. So far, so good? Let me see if I can scooch this up a little bit. Spread these out a little bit too far, huh? Okay. Come on, bud. Never thought I'd miss dry erase boards so much. Okay. So the next 3 things we want to calculate are average total cost, average variable cost, and marginal cost. And so I'm going to erase these 2. Well, I'm going to erase this one. We'll fill that in a second. And I'm going to put average total cost here. So our average total cost is just our total cost divided by the quantity. So if we're producing 1 unit, our total cost is $18. So our average total cost is $18. If we're producing 2 units, our total cost is $20. 20 divided by 2 is going to be $10. If we're producing 3 units, we want to calculate 24 divided by 3 because that's our total cost. And that's our quantity. So that's going to be, I already calculated it, didn't I? Maybe I didn't. Oh, yeah, I did. 8. Duh. Sorry. Oh, that's the worst 8 I've ever drawn in my life. Okay. That's even better. Okay. Sorry. It's $8. And then $30 divided by 4 is going to give us an average total cost of $7.50. And then $40 divided by 5 is going to be $8. Cool. Now we want to calculate average variable cost and marginal cost. And this is easier for you if you got your piece of paper there, if you printed it out or you're looking at it on your computer and you're working on note paper, or if you're editing it in a Word document, whatever is easiest for you. So you can see all those columns. I'm just erasing so I can keep fitting everything in here and keep writing super gigantic big like I like to do. I need a new green pen. Okay, so average variable cost is going to be our variable costs divided by our quantity. So in a quantity of 1, our variable cost was $8. That's given by the problem. So if variable cost is $8 and quantity is 1, then our average variable cost is going to be 8 divided by 1, or $8. At quantity 2, if you look over under the variable cost column, you can see that the variable costs for a quantity of 2 is $10. $10 divided by 2 is going to give us an average variable cost of $5. For quantity of 3, our average variable cost is going to be the variable cost of 14 divided by 3. That's going to be $4.67, because we're going to round that last 6 up. You guys can see that. And then for quantity of 4, our variable cost is $20. 20 divided by 4 is 5. And then for our 5th quantity, our last one, it's variable cost of $30 divided by 5 gives us average variable cost of 6. Cool? The last one we want to do is our marginal cost. And marginal cost seems tricky, but it's actually super easy because it's the one you don't have to do that much calculation for. Because marginal cost, remember, marginal means additional. So it's just the additional cost of the next unit. So the one tricky one might be that first one, since I didn't give you guys the quantity of 0. So remember, if we produce 0 units, our fixed costs are the same and our variable costs are 0. So a quantity of 0 would have had a quantity of 0 would have had a fixed cost of $10 and a variable cost of $0. So the total cost would have been $10. So the marginal cost is really going to be the change in either the total cost or the variable cost, because that's what's changing, right? Fixed cost doesn't change. We'll talk about why in the next couple of chapters, but for now, that's all you need to know is that fixed costs don't change in the short run in the time we're looking at. So if we're going from fixed cost of $10, variable cost of $0, that's a $10 total cost, to a fixed cost of $10, variable cost of $8, our marginal cost of that first unit is going to be those first $8. Then we go from $18 to $20. That's a super easy one. The marginal cost, the additional cost of producing that second unit is just $2. I picked a bad pen for this one. Right? Because we're going from 18 to 2, the marginal cost, or 18 to 20, the marginal cost is 2. When we go from 20 to 24, the marginal cost of that third unit is going to be that extra $4 of going from $20 to $24. When we produce a fourth unit, now we're going from 24 to 30, so now our marginal cost is going to be $6. Right? 30 minus 24 is 6. And then when we go from producing 4 to 5, our costs go from $30 to $40. So the marginal cost is $10. Woo! So the next thing that I ask you guys to do with this is graph the marginal cost curve, the average total cost curve, and the average variable cost curve. And those are the curves we really care about. Excuse me. When we're looking at these things, that's what we really are interested in, is the average total cost, average variable cost, and marginal cost curves. And we'll talk about why in the very next chapter when we look at firms' behavior in perfect competition. So let's do it. So I've got my handy dandy cheat sheet where I calculated everything already. And so I'm going to now go ahead and try to graph this. I want you guys kind of come with me. So I'm going to need an axis for the cost and an axis for the quantity. This is going to be the quantity of units that my firm's producing. Let me get that glare out of there, right? And the cost associated with producing that. And then I know that I'm calculating average, I'm going to be graphing average total cost, average variable cost, and marginal cost. And so I can see my scale is going to be kind of between 18 and 2. And so I'm going to do something like $20 at the top and build my way down in increments of 5. You can do whatever you are comfortable with, so long as it is moderately logical. Sound good? Then we've got our quantities of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now I want to draw my curves. And we're going to expect these curves to all kind of tend towards being shaped the same way. We're going to see the marginal cost curve being like a fish hook, and then average variable cost being a smile, and average total cost being a smile that's skewed a little bit up. So we'll see that when I graph these curves. So I'm going to start with marginal cost. That's what I like to start with personally. And my marginal cost is going to start at a quantity of 8, or a quantity of 1 and a cost of 8. And then it's going to go down at quantity of 2 to $2, which is going to be way down here. And then at a quantity of 3, it's going to go up to $4. At 4, it's going to go up to $6. And then at 5, my marginal cost goes all the way up to $10. So it's going to look a little bit like a fish hook. So far, so good? Not too much glare? All right. The next curve I'm going to want to do is going to be my, looking at all my pens, is going to be my average. It doesn't matter which one you do next. I'm going to do my average variable cost curve next because I want to. So my average variable cost curve is going to start at a quantity of 1 and $8. So about here. And then it's going to go to a quantity of 2 and $5. And then a quantity of 3. And it's going to go down slightly to $4.67, right? And then it's going to go back up to $5. And remember, this is marginal cost $6 at 4 units, so that's going to kind of be my guideline. And then it's going to go up to $6. That's more of a smiley face type shape. See that? The last one I want to do is average total cost. That one starts out really high, and that's because, remember, if we've got our average total cost is $18 and our average variable cost is $8, the difference between those two is the $10 of fixed costs. And then as those fixed costs fall, average total cost is going to get closer to average variable cost, and you'll see that graphically when we go through. So average total cost starts up here at $18, and then goes down to $10, and then goes down to $7.50, and then goes oh wait, no, it goes down to $8 and then 7.5. So let's say that, and that, and then that. So that's more of a skewed smile. So that's what your curves should generally kind of look like. And that's really, I'm going to move this over here so you guys can really see it. That's really what we're going to expect these curves to tend to look like in general, right? Because this tells us something about, oh, so easy, the nature of the way firms are going to react to scaling up. It's going to get cheaper as you start to increase production, and then it's going to get more expensive. And that's that idea of economies of scale, right? When firms are too small, costs are high, and they could lower costs by producing more. Then as firms get larger and larger, costs are going to start to go up, and they might be better off producing less. And we're going to talk more about this in the next chapter. In the next chapter, we're going to look at firms in perfect competition and talk about how firms decide how many units to produce. But generally, you want to see your marginal cost fall and then rise and be always rising after that. Your average variable costs are going to fall and then rise like a smiley face. And your average total cost is going to have that same shape, but it's going to start out far away from variable costs and then get closer to average variable costs as those fixed costs continue to fall when you divide them out over that quantity. And so the one graph we didn't graph up here that we won't normally graph is average fixed costs, but that would be something where it would start out at average fixed cost would be $10 for the first unit, 10 divided by 1, because our fixed costs were $10. And then when we divided it by 2, all of a sudden it dropped to 5. And then we divided by 3, and it dropped to like $3.33. And then we divided by 4, 10 divided by 4. Like $2. I'm sorry, I don't do that off the top of my head. 10 divided by 5 would be $2. And then as we kept dividing that fixed cost over smaller or larger and larger quantities, we get smaller and smaller values. So that's why average total cost gets closer and closer to average variable cost. Okay. Please, please, please go on the discussion board. Let me know if you have any questions about this material, about how to do this problem, any questions about graphing these cost curves, economies of scale, and that kind of thing. I will post an answer key a little bit later. Turn this in however you can. Draw it on paper and take a picture and submit it. You can do a video if you want. I allowed like every submission type, so you can do it in Word if you want to. Just make sure you do it, because once you turn something in, I can give you participation points. Okay? Have a great day. Wash your hands.